The President of the United States serves as both the nation's head of state and head of government. This makes the President the highest-ranking public official in the country. Every 4 years, Americans choose a president through a unique process known as the Electoral College, rather than by a direct nationwide popular vote. The President leads the executive branch of the federal government, oversees the enforcement of laws, and works with Congress to shape national policy. Another major responsibility is serving as the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Armed Forces, giving the President authority over the nation's military during times of peace and war. As one of the world's most influential political officers, the presidency plays a central role in shaping both the future of the United States and its relationships with countries around the globe. The first president, George Washington, won a unanimous vote of the Electoral College. The incumbent president is Donald Trump, who assumed office on January 20th, 2025. Since the office was established in 1789, 45 men have served in 47 presidencies. The discrepancy is due to the non-consecutive terms of Grover Cleveland, counted as the 22nd and 24th president, and Trump, counted as the 45th and 47th president. Not every American president has served a full term. In fact, the shortest presidency in U.S. history belonged to William Henry Harrison. After taking office in 1841, he died just 31 days later, making his presidency the briefest ever recorded. At the opposite end of history stands Franklin D. Roosevelt. He served for more than 12 years and remains the only president ever elected to 4 terms. His remarkable time in office came to an end when he passed away during his 4th term in 1945. Roosevelt's unprecedented presidency led to a major constitutional change. In 1951, the 22nd Amendment was ratified, limiting future presidents to a maximum of 2 elected terms. Since then, no president has been allowed to win the office more than twice. The presidency has also witnessed moments of great tragedy. 4 presidents died of natural causes while serving in office, and 4 others were assassinated. These events changed the course of American history and left a lasting impact on the nation. Another historic moment came in 1974, when Richard Nixon became the first and only U.S. president to resign from office before completing his term. The transfer of presidential power has also shaped the American system. When a president leaves office unexpectedly, the vice president immediately assumes the presidency. This tradition began with John Tyler, who became president after the death of William Henry Harrison. Tyler established the precedent that the vice president does not simply act as president, but becomes the full president, with all the powers and responsibilities of the office. These historic events have helped define the modern American presidency, ensuring that the nation's government continues to function even during times of crisis. The rise of political parties. In the early years of the United States, political parties did not exist. In fact, the U.S. Constitution never mentioned them, and many of the nation's founders believed that political parties could divide the young republic. However, that unity did not last for long. Soon after the first Congress met, disagreements over the country's future led to the formation of political factions. 2 of the most influential leaders, Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, became the central figures behind America's first political movements, shaping the nation's political landscape for generations to come. Interestingly, the first president, George Washington, refused to join any political party. Throughout his 8 years in office, he remained politically independent, believing that party politics could threaten the unity and stability of the new nation. To this day, he remains the only U.S. president who never belonged to a political party. The birth of the United States. The story of the United States began during the late 18th century, as the American colonies sought freedom from British rule. In 1775, the Continental Army was formed, and George Washington was chosen as its commander. Under his leadership, American forces fought against Britain in what became known as the American Revolutionary War. 1 year later, on July 4, 1776, delegates gathered in Philadelphia and approved the Declaration of Independence. By signing this historic document, they officially declared that their 13 colonies were free and independent from the British Empire. The war continued for several more years, but in 1783 the American colonies emerged victorious. Britain formally recognized the independence of the United States, marking the birth of a new nation. Although independence had been won, the country still needed a stronger system of government. On March 4, 1789, representatives adopted the United States Constitution, creating the federal government that still governs America today, built on the principles of federalism, republican government, and democracy. The Constitution became the foundation of one of the world's oldest constitutional republics and continues to shape the United States more than 2 centuries later.